All right, part two of answering these two questions. Yes, I'm wearing a different shirt. This is a couple days later, but yeah. So the first question was, what are some of the considerations for physical and mental aspects of youth training for sports and everything, like kids' first exposure to lifting weights and playing sports in general, and what's important. So I went over all that. I'm not going to really recap it here or anything. But the second question that I felt really went hand in hand with that is, why don't we see a lot of older lifters, or why don't we see a lot of lifters in general ever reach their potential? In special, I mean, this is in regard to powerlifting, I'm pretty sure. So first of all, like, defining potential's kind of tough. I mean, we don't know what everybody's genetic potential is. We don't know what everybody's potential for maximizing their hypertrophy, like their muscle size potential, their force production potential, and stuff like that. It's pretty goddamn hard to figure that out and find that out and everything. So, piggybacking off of the previous question about youth and getting them started in a new training plan and everything, I think, like, you can go online, you can find a million different programs, you can find a million different 6, 8, 10, 12 week templates and stuff like that, and that's how most of these coaches program their stuff in little like all these Instagram fitspirational shredicated whatever coaches that are out there, that they just kind of draw up these little short programs with really no there's no thought in how that program progresses after the meet's over, after the test day, after the whatever, after you're done paying them. I'm a big believer in planning out training at least a year in advance, which sounds a lot harder than it is. It's really not super complicated. But back to the program issues. These programs are designed to get you, hopefully, to maximum efficiency, maximum weight in one afternoon at the end of your 6, 10, 8, 12 weeks, whatever it is, however long it is. And that's it. Then you're cut loose. You're done. It doesn't give a fuck about you from that point on. So how this ties into the youth training part and then the potential part is, everybody's going to get to a point where they're going to plateau. It's going to slow down, whether that's an injury, whether that injury was avoidable or preventable with smarter, better training and living and sleeping and eating and everything else, or if that injury is just totally fucking random and there was nothing anybody could have done about it, which happens a lot, or just burnout or something like that, which is completely preventable with smart training. I am a firm believer in that. Or you're just going to hit a point where weights don't go up, and that happens probably more than the injury and the burnout for most people, but then that plateau where weights just stagnate normally precedes injury or burnout or something like that. So this is all avoidable, minus those unavoidable injuries, but burnout is avoidable and plateau is avoidable too. But the reason I would put money on the reason that happening for most people is they never ever built a base of preparedness to be able to handle the amount of volume they need once they actually start getting stronger, to get stronger after that point. So what I mean, I know this analogy gets beaten to death in this context, but like a pyramid, the wider the base of your pyramid, the taller it can be. The wider the base of your building, the taller it can be. So you're going to hit a point where you can only build so much on a little skinny, narrow base. And I mean, this is something that needs to be started when kids are young and first get into training. There needs to be like shitloads of general physical preparedness, general training. You need to stay away from templates that focus on hyper specificity and super high frequencies and stuff like that. It does not take much to become proficient and effective in squatting, benching, and deadlifting. These aren't complicated movements by any means. And you can fuck them up and still be able to do them safely for a long period of time. Like, I can't stand these people that harp on, I just got to work on my technique. So as a result, I'm going to squat fucking 5 days a week as hard as I can. Man, why aren't my lifts going anywhere? Well, it's because just doing the power lifts don't develop all of those muscles all together all at the same time at the same speed. So you fucking have to do assistance work. You have to do general physical work to work on that strength of those smaller muscles that are not getting the same amount of work at the same speed in order to get better. But there's just a general amount of readiness that's not there for most people that just program hop all this bullshit all the time. Like there's like shake go cycles, there's small off cycles and stuff. And I mean, there's a time and a place for these things too. I don't want to just completely shit all over them. I know I was talking to a strength coach at a college not too long ago that some of the players on one of the teams were just kind of slacking off. They weren't like burnt out. They were just bored. And, so just to change up training in the weight room for a little bit, he threw in like 4 weeks of a small off bench cycle. And, they came in, benched 3 or 4 days a week. Everybody's benches went up over the course of the 4 weeks, and they switched back over to their kind of regular periodized sports training that they do throughout the year. And everybody was just a little bit more fired up. The break was nice. Everybody's benches were a little bit heavier, at least in the short term. And yeah. So I mean, that's an example of a way to throw that in there that's not complete nonsense. But it's these people that repeat these cycles or keep this frequency up all year, keep the specificity up all year, that are just gonna get fucked eventually. And it doesn't, I mean, the timeline is based on the genetic propensity of those people to be strong and how well they recover and stuff like that. So you get lots of varying opinions on this of people that do these super specified no GPP programs because they can get away with it, because they're just genetically gifted in that fact that they can do it for longer than other people can. So I'm kind of rambling here a little bit, but it's just the reason potential isn't met is because the groundwork to actually get to that point is never set up. So most of the year, even for beginner, intermediate, advanced lifters, most of the year has to be dedicated to just general strength, getting generally strong, generally conditioned. And if you need to keep doing all this technique work and all this like super specified training and stuff like that, then you should probably find another fucking sport to do. You probably just suck at it. If you suck at it, like if you've been lifting for 2 or 3 years and you still fucking suck at doing squatting, benching, and deadlifting so much that you need designated technical training, then I mean, you might just not be fucking good at it. Meanwhile, you could get stronger this whole entire time you've been fucking around with your technique by just doing some other basic shit that's not a squat, a bench, or a deadlift with your shitty technique and have a better total as a result. But whatever. Technique is whatever scores. Like, if you go to a meet and you squat 100 pounds with like a perfectly vertical torso and you bury it, like your ass hits your heels when you're in the bottom, you're fucking, a white blinding light springs from your ghoulie, and everyone is just in awe of this perfect specimen of technique, and you just smoke it and you rack it, you get 3 white lights, you have this new 100-pound squat PR. The fucking guy after you that looks like a sick cat taking its last dying shit as he's doing his squat and gets 2 white lights and it barely counts, but he did 500 pounds, he beats you. He beats you. It doesn't matter. You don't get bonus pounds for, that super pretty, super deep squat that you did. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, I'm rambling, going off on a bit of a rant there. But yeah, so general physical preparedness is the reason people do not reach their potential.